The window to buy low might be closing in your fantasy league as deadlines approach. It's not too late though. Let's go ahead and make some buy low offers on these players who are suddenly struggling. And let's keep using the tried and true formula. Go after an ace who has had a couple of rough starts. In this case, it's Diamondbacks pitcher Zach Gallen. In his last start, he gave up 5 earned runs. Okay, fine, but he did go 7 innings. I mean, that happens to all pitchers. But no, with Gallen, this has really become a concerning trend. He's given up at least 3 earned runs in 5 of his last 7 starts. Over July, his ERA has jumped by a run. Probably the most concerning thing I see in his stat line is that his strikeout rate is down, and in fact, it's a career worst, 22.9%. Now, when I dig deeper into Gallen and the StatCast numbers, I get some mixed messages. So obviously, strikeout numbers and whiff rate is down. That's bad, right? There's no way to sugarcoat it. Not good for fantasy. It's not like it's terrible, but obviously less than what you expected from a guy like this who has been really good for several years. On the other hand, you look at the fact that his expected batting average against, it's really the same as last year. Last year, he was a frontline pitcher, and so it's not like he's getting much worse results in everything else as far as batted ball luck. He's really not doing much that different, except for one thing that does stand out. His fastball has just not been that effective at all this year. In fact, it's kind of shocking when you look at the run values for his pitch groups. He's actually been really good in terms of his off speed and breaking stuff, and the fastball is not just worse, it's bad. And since last year, the batting average against his fastball has been rising. Is he going to correct this? Well, I'm not sure what the deal is because he has not lost any velocity. And so that's not the issue here. And this is not an older pitcher by any means. We shouldn't worry about, losing anything physically. Nothing has changed. He's in the same team, environment. So what gives? It's just a matter of command and locating it not as well as he had been. Now he's backed off a little bit, isn't using the fastball quite as much, but still, you got to get by with the fastball. He's using at least half the time. He's been effective mostly, but against teams that do hit the fastball well, that's where he's been susceptible. All that said, why should you try to buy low on him? What if this just continues? I can't guarantee that it won't, but Gallen is typically not a guy that gets rocked. And in fact, if you look throughout the first half of the season, he was fine. And in fact, if you look at the splits, overall his ERA second half, first half, they're still not that bad. His ERA is under 4. I mean, he's not really as bad as July is making it look. So I think he will be okay the rest of the way. If you have a frustrated Gallen owner that's looking for a playoff push and you want somebody who's a dependable frontline starter who can still eat up innings and maybe not get you quite as many Ks as last year, but still at least rack up those counting stats. Look, Diamondbacks are a contender. You're going to get you some wins. I think Gallen is still a strong SP2 that you can get now on the cheap. Now, I don't know if consistent and dependable are words that have really been used with Nick Pivetta, but he is still someone who has fantasy appeal. Unlike Gallen, his strikeout numbers are actually getting better, but we know about the roller coaster that is Nick Pivetta. And that ride is definitely on a downswing lately. His last 3 starts have been disastrous. He's given up a total of 12 earned runs over his last 14 innings pitched. Some people are getting tired of it. Look, maybe in more shallow leagues, we've seen his roster chip rate down to 76%. He is not universally owned. He's been dropped, and I understand his ERA is above 4. And when you string together such bad starts, really bad we're talking about, then yeah, I get it. You want to rage drop a guy. So obviously I'm here to tell you, I think he'll get over it. This is just what he does. He's one of those players that is going to be volatile. So when the downs are really low, the highs can be really high. And I think that he'll pull out of it because there's really no reason for him not to. It's just, I think on a bad stretch, honestly, coming out the gate slow in the second half, some players just do that. But also the good news is that strikeout rate, like I mentioned, hasn't taken a hit. Unlike Gallen, we've seen even in those last 14 innings where he's given up so many runs, getting hit hard, he still struck out 21 guys. And in fact, he's actually getting stronger in that category as the season progresses. He's got 49 Ks over his last 33 innings pitched. He's posting the second highest K rate of his career, 29.9%. Let's just call it 30. And last year was his career high, 31%. So he's definitely figured out how to generate those whiffs, and that's very important. I think that the ratios will start to lower again as we get towards the stretch run here. And also the fact that besides the strikeout rate going up, he's not really getting himself into trouble with walks. He's got a career best 5.9%. What I always say with pitchers, if the command is there, the rest will follow. Well, right now it doesn't feel like that with Pavetta, but I would buy into him because look, you might even be able to pick him up if he was dropped in some leagues, but if not, you can get him at a great discount. Now, maybe the Cleveland Guardians thought they were buying low when they got Lane Thomas from Washington stick in their lineup. And now it doesn't seem that way because he doesn't seem to love Cleveland too much. I'm sure he loves the city and his teammates and, Cleveland rocks and all that. But it doesn't look like it on the field because in the week since he's become a Guardian, he's hitting 125, not a single home run, RBI, or steal. Is this a bad fit? Is there too much pressure on him now? Different league, different uniform. I don't look. Come on. It's been a week, not even since he's switched teams. It's going to take some time for him just to get comfortable there. I think he will be totally fine. This is a player that has value because even though he doesn't have a steal yet with Cleveland, again, a week, he is fourth in the majors with 28 steals. Now, one thing you might look to is the fact that he left Washington, which right now, the Washington Nationals lead the majors in stolen base attempts, and they're going to keep running. But I think a lot of that is also because of the players they had. They had a guy like Lane Thomas. And, Cleveland, they still run plenty. In fact, they're eighth in terms of stolen base attempts. That number will probably go up. In fact, these teams might even out by the time the year's over. He'll still run. He does still have power. It's not like he got a downgrade in park. He definitely got an upgrade in lineup context. He's now sandwiched, at least the last time he was in the lineup, hitting second after Stephen Kwan and before Jose Ramirez. That's a pretty good spot to be hitting. There may not be too many Lane Thomas owners panicking, but if his slump does continue, then again, people get desperate. Throw out a buy low offer and see what happens. Now, what if I told you that the player who is second in the majors in stolen bases and hits leadoff for a first place team is being dropped in fantasy leagues? That's right, Bryce Terang is now down to 78% rostered on Yahoo. Some people are getting tired of him being in a funk because it's been a while. So if he's still somewhere in your league, it's probably on the bench. I get it. People are tired of the fact that he's not hitting and he's actually not really running that much anymore. Since the calendar flipped to July, well, he's only stolen 4 bases after being, again, among the league leaders all season long, and his batting average dropped from 292 down to 262. But despite all that, he still hits leadoff most days. Sometimes he's at the bottom order, sure, but he's playing every day. Milwaukee, I understand that offense is not what it was early in the season either. Christian Yelich is out. William Contreras has slowed down. I understand this, right? I don't think Bryce Terang will hit like he did in April or even May, but I do think he'll be better than he was in July. This is just a matter of figuring things out, that midseason lull, but Terang is still going to run, and he's still getting you some average, and he still scores runs because he hits at the top of that order most days. Now, while Terang is a player who peaked early, sometimes fantasy owners even get impatient with a player who has just started to see action. Josh Young of the Rangers has only been back for about a week after missing basically the entire year. I think he played for about a week until he got hurt. And, well, he just hasn't done enough. People are tired of him. Let's move on. Since rejoining the Rangers, he's hitting 250. He has 1 solo home run, and that's kind of it. All right, and then the Rangers are not really an exciting offense anymore. This is a team that pretty much just said, we don't think we're contending. We took our championship last year, and we're going to look forward to next year. Okay, fine. But you don't have to be a playoff team to score runs. This Rangers lineup is really not that bad still. Let's remember that Jung was drafted as a top 10 third baseman in a lot of leagues for fantasy. We were expecting maybe 30 home run upside after last year's promising campaign. Injury has cut that short, but he's back. He's obviously feeling fine. The wrist is not bothering him. And so I think we're just going to see him knock that rust off. We're going to start to see him driving more runs, and he is now hitting cleanup in that lineup. So I think that the RBIs, the home runs, are going to start to pick up. You want to grab him before that happens. It's always a good idea to go after players that are on a slumping team. No team has been worse since the All Star break than the Cincinnati Reds. I mean, obviously the White Sox, I thought that was just understood. But the worst offense in the National League has been Cincinnati. I mean, they have just come out sluggish. That's pretty much everybody other than maybe LA De La Cruz once in a while. I know things have not gone Cincinnati's way, so many injuries, especially in the lineup, but they got to finish out this season. They're going to keep competing. Guys play for contracts, they play for pride. And Spencer Steer is one of those players who had a great year last year, and he's on pace to actually have a similar season. He was kind of revelation last year after coming out of nowhere. 271 average, 23 home runs, 15 stolen bases. This year, well, he's got 15 home runs, 18 stolen bases so far, and we still got almost 2 months to play. It's the batting average is now down to 229 after a prolonged slump. He's only gone one for his last 14, and like I mentioned, that's kind of how this whole Reds offense has been. And for him, it's extended even before the break. He's only hit 213 in July. Now, we are going to see some positive regression. His expected batting average is at least better. It's a 241. That doesn't match last year's average. But wait, there could be more if he starts to get some better luck. It's not often you'll hear me reference BABIP because, there's a lot of things that come into play for batting average on balls in play. But listen to this. In 2024, that's this season, Spencer Steer's BABIP is 263. Last year, it was 316. That is a huge difference. And honestly, there is no reason it should be that different because his batted ball outcomes are almost identical to last year. His line drive rate, his ground ball rate, his fly ball rate, almost the same. He's not doing anything different. If you're wondering, the league average in MLB this year, right now, on BABIP is 290. He's at 263. It's got to come up at least a little bit, which means the batting average will come up. Now, I'm not saying he'll hit 271 like last year, but it's going to come up, which means you're going to see better results. The power's still there. He's stealing bases. And I think I have to assume that the Reds at some point will sort of wake up. So again, you're getting a really solid fantasy producer at a great discount right now based on how bad he and that offense has been. You've got to continue to be aggressive all the way up until the end. That means getting those buy low offers out there, picking up players on the waiver wire, and stashing prospects before they debut. If you missed the latest Beat the Breakout, it's up right here.